Car crashes. Are they even a problem? Why do they happen? And how can we stop them from happening? Let's take a look.
Roads are still unbelievably dangerous. In any given year, 1 out of every 10,000 people in the US die in a car accident. Just think about how high of a proportion that is. If you go to a Redskins game at FedEx Field near Washington, D.C., 8 of the people sitting in the stands with you will die in the next year in a car accident.
Traffic fatalities worldwide account for 1.25 million deaths yearly and over 3,800 deaths a day. They are the 9th leading cause of death, and they account for 2.2% of all deaths globally. Unless action is taken, road traffic injuries are predicted to become the 5th leading cause of death by 2030. And they cost countries from 1 to 2% of their annual GDP. This is even worse for low and middle income countries, where 90% of road crashes occur, although they have less than half of the world's vehicles. The disproportionate effect of car crashes on low-income citizens would make Marx mad, as the history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles.
Currently, the U.S. has policies that we're using general tax revenues to fund highways. We're basically subsidizing people to drive.
And that's why it's cheaper to drive to the grocery store to buy blueberries from 4,000 miles away than it is to walk over to the farmer's market and buy local. Can you tell I'm eating blueberries?
You can tell you're eating what you got.
Okay, cool.
Cool! The issue of car crashes is specifically one of class, and it sets the poor back while the wealthy continue to cruise on. If we were to find a solution for car crashes, we would save low and middle income countries $65 billion annually, which is more than they get for developmental assistance. But how can we solve this issue, you may be asking? Fear not, I will explain. First, we must identify the root causes of this issue.
Humans aren't perfect drivers. I mean, I am. I drive a Mustang. But the rest of humanity isn't. Most traffic-related problems are caused by drivers not following the rules of the road, whether that means speeding, not signaling, or tailgating. Additionally, our transit infrastructure is designed to function properly when drivers are following traffic laws. So when even a small percentage of people decide to drive erratically, the whole system breaks down.
And it's not just a small portion of crashes that can be attributed to a driver. A review article by an expert in the field of highway safety found that, of all road crashes, 3% can solely be attributed to the roadway conditions, 2% can be attributed to vehicle conditions, but a whopping 57% can solely be attributed to the driver. This disparity shows that, while we may believe car crashes are accidents, they are in fact crashes that are caused by a person more often than not. Lucretius says, we must therefore confess that nothing can emerge from nothing. Lucretius would not appreciate the tendency of vehicular crashes to be labeled as accidents, because, as he explains, nothing can emerge from nothing, and every action is motivated by some explainable force. He would look at a crash and wonder why it happened. He would investigate the safety features of the cars, which are up to snuff 98% of the time, the regulations and the condition of the road, which are the cause of an incident only 3% of the time, and then the driver, and he would oftentimes find that drivers cause the majority of crashes. This reveals a huge issue with the field of road safety. While everyone is trying to make roads and vehicles safer with increased road design and vehicle safety technology, the issue is statistically the limitations of the person behind the wheel. Solutions like seatbelts or better helmets for bicyclists, as were conceived right here on Temple's campus, half a block from where I get hit by a car myself, by the company Park and Diamond, are merely band-aids to try to reduce injuries to victims. The real solutions arise when we attempt to stop a crash from happening before it even occurs, like including automated braking systems which catch crashes before the human driver can. As Coates says, I did not tell you it would be okay because I have never believed it would be okay. In this context, he is comforting his son about the realism of racism in our country. I believe that using the word accident instead of the word crash is comforting people in our country to believe that crashes are an unavoidable aspect of our life. We must educate our children based on the reality of this issue, which kills so many and affects countless other bodies. We must not forget the physical toll that this issue takes on road users everywhere. Crashes are a visceral experience that dislodge brains, block airways, rip muscle, extract organs, crack bones, and break teeth. I propose that we change the paradigm of how we view road crashes. Instead of labeling them as accidents and leaving them up to coincidence, we must hold accountable the the drivers who are almost always the cause of the crashes. In the future, my proposed solution is to completely remove drivers from cars using automated technology. However,
with self-driving cars going mainstream still years away, there are steps you can take to fight traffic today. The first is the easiest. Don't use your phone when you're driving. Not only does distracted driving account for a quarter of car crashes in the US, but for a lot of people, it slows them down.
In Singapore, where they just debuted a self-driving taxi, they're also building a city with no cars. Same thing in
Mannheim, Germany.
which ironically is where this guy invented the first car.
The future of our cities is about people. That really does mean focusing on public transportation and providing choices for how people get around.
The number one factor that determines whether someone can escape poverty, you would think it'd be like crime rates or school, it's commute time.
When walking, cycling, and public transportation are the fastest ways to move, nobody feels like a second-class citizen for not owning a car.
That's going to be the secret sauce for cities in the 21st century.
Check out all these Metro cards. That last one's from Singapore, where I didn't meet a single person who owns a car.
It's hard to beat the Singaporeans.
In Singapore, a Toyota Corolla costs 140 grand and the government only lets you lease it for 10 years.
The fact that they embrace having something that actually charges people for the social cost of their driving is a policy that basically all crowded cities should be embracing.
to sum it up, my proposed solution is to remove drivers from cars entirely, since they are predominantly what cause crashes. However, since that won't be happening anytime soon, something that we could do in the meantime is to remove cars from streets in any way possible, including public transportation, areas in cities without cars, and taxes on cars to make driving less economically feasible.